Welcome to This Week in Royal History, where we take a look at the captivating stories of royals from around the world, across various centuries, and explore the impact they had on history and society. Through their triumphs and tragedies, these royals shaped the world we live in today, leaving behind legacies that continue to inspire and intrigue us. So sit back, relax, and journey with us through time as we explore the enchanting and sometimes tragic lives of the royals who have captivated our hearts and imaginations throughout the ages.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.
Joan of England was born on the 22nd of July in 1210 to John, King of England, and Isabella of Angoulême. In 1249, Joan was promised to Hugh X of Lusignan and was sent to be raised at his court. After her father, King John, died in 1216, plans changed, and her mother married Hugh instead. Hugh kept Joan at his court, hoping to lay claim to both her dowry and her mother's, but she was sent back to England in May 1220, and negotiations began for her betrothal to Alexander II of Scotland. In June 1221, 10-year-old Joan and 23-year-old Alexander were married at York Minster. Joan and Alexander had no children and would become estranged, with Joan spending most of her time in England with her brother, Henry III, who granted her manors. Joan died on the 4th of March, 1238, at the age of 27 in her brother's arms. Philip the Handsome made his entrance into the world on the 22nd of July in 1478, born to Maximilian I, Holy Roman Emperor, and Mary, Duchess of Burgundy. His childhood took a sharp turn when his mother passed away when he was just 4 years old, thrusting him into the role of Duke of Burgundy. Fast forward to October 1496. Philip tied the knot with Joanna, or Juana, the daughter of Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella of Castile. Juana was third in line to the Spanish throne at the time, but by 1500, a series of untimely deaths in her family left her as the heir apparent to Castile. In 1504, Juana ascended to the throne of Castile after her mother's death, and Philip snagged the title of king in June 1506 through a treaty with his father-in-law, Ferdinand. Their marriage was far from a fairy tale, marked by discord, yet they managed to produce 6 children. Impressively, each of their 4 daughters became queens, while their 2 sons rose to be kings, and one even became Holy Roman Emperor. Philip's life was cut short when he died suddenly on the 25th of September, 1506, succumbing to typhoid fever. He was laid to rest in the Royal Chapel of Granada, leaving behind a legacy of political intrigue and a lineage of rulers. Anna of Bohemia and Hungary was born on the 23rd of July in 1503. Vladislaus II of Bohemia and Hungary. After the death of her father in 1516, Anna and her younger brother were sent to the care of Maximilian I, Holy Roman Emperor. In February 1521, Anna married Maximilian's grandson, Ferdinand of Austria, the second son of Juana of Castile and Philip I of Castile, Duke of Burgundy. When her brother died in 1526 in battle, Ferdinand claimed the titles of King of Bohemia and Hungary, and in 1531, Ferdinand was appointed King of the Romans as heir to his brother Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. Anna would unfortunately die before he became Holy Roman Emperor. Anna and Ferdinand had 15 children, although not all lived to adulthood. Anna died on the 27th of January, 1547, at the age of 43, days after giving birth to her final child. Henry Fitzroy was born on the 15th of June, 1519, as the illegitimate son of Henry VIII of England and his mistress, Bessie Blount. He was recognized by his father, and his surname, Fitzroy, means son of the king. At 6 years old, Henry was created Duke of Richmond and Somerset, as well as a Knight of the Garter and Lord High Admiral of England. In 1529, Henry was also made Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, perhaps with the hopes of granting him the kingdom when he was older. Henry married Lady Mary Howard, a cousin of Anne Boleyn, in 1533. He died suddenly on the 23rd of July in 1536 of consumption at St. James's Palace. His tomb is located at St. Michael's Church in Suffolk, the burial site for the Howard family. After her third marriage to Lord Bothwell, Mary, Queen of Scots, became unpopular in Scotland. Scottish noblemen gathered their own armies and met the forces of Mary and Bothwell at Carberry Hill. Even though no battle occurred, Bothwell left, driven into exile, and Mary was taken prisoner to Lochleven Castle. On the 24th of July, 1567, she was forced to abdicate the Scottish throne in favor of her 1-year-old son, James VI. Prince William, Duke of Gloucester, was born on the 24th of July in 1689 to Princess Anne, future Queen Anne of Great Britain, and Prince George of Denmark at Hampton Court Palace in London. This was Anne's 7th pregnancy, but first child to survive infancy. His mother was heir to the English, Irish, and Scottish thrones when he was born. Upon his birth, King William III declared him Duke of Gloucester. William was a sickly child and was raised at Craven House in Kensington, hoping the fresh air would help him. William spent his 11th birthday at Windsor, where he complained of fatigue and suffered a sore throat and cold chills. By the 28th of July, 2 physicians were called to his bedside, but neither could agree on a diagnosis. William died on the 30th of July, 1700, in the early morning hours. His mother and father were beside him at the time. He may have suffered from smallpox or a bacterium associated with pneumonia. He was buried at Westminster Abbey and was the only child to survive infancy out of 17 pregnancies to his parents. In her first marriage, Eleanor of Aquitaine married Louis of France on the 25th of July in 1137 at the Cathedral of Saint-André in Bordeaux. Immediately following the wedding, they were invested as Duke and Duchess of Aquitaine. On the 1st of August, 1137, Louis and Eleanor became King and Queen of France upon the death of his father and were jointly crowned on the 25th of December. Interesting fact, Eleanor gave Louis a rock crystal vase as a wedding gift, which still survives today and can be seen on display at the Louvre Museum. 2 days after meeting for the first time, cousins Mary I of England and Philip II of Spain were married on the 25th of July in 1554 at Winchester Cathedral in England. Mary was 38 years old and Philip was 27. Many were concerned with the royal marriage, as Mary was the first queen regnant, not to be disputed, and any marriage would give all titles and property owned by her to her husband, as was common law in England. Therefore, in April 1554, Queen Mary's Marriage Act was passed, which allowed Philip to use the title King of England, but he held no authority of his own in England and would relinquish the title upon the death of Mary. Cecily Neville was born around 1425 to Richard Neville, 5th Earl of Salisbury, and his wife Alice. She was a sister to Richard Neville, 16th Earl of Warwick, who would become known as the Kingmaker. Her paternal aunt was Cecily Neville, Duchess of York, and her first cousins included future kings Edward IV and Richard III. In 1434, she married Henry de Beauchamp, 1st Duke of Warwick. They had one daughter, Anne Beauchamp, who succeeded her father as 15th Earl of Warwick. When the dukedom was created, it only allowed for male heirs to succeed, but the earldom could pass to females. However, Cecily's daughter died at 5 years old in 1449, and the Warwick title passed to her daughter's paternal aunt, Lady Anne, who married Richard Neville. Cecily then married John Tiptoft, 1st Earl of Worcester, in 1449, but they had no children. She died on the 26th of July in 1450 and was buried with her first husband in Tewkesbury Abbey. William Herbert was born around 1423 to William ap Thomas and his wife Gladys. He was a Welsh nobleman, soldier, courtier, and politician known as Black William. William supported the Yorkist cause during the Wars of the Roses and was given the title of Baron Herbert of Raglan and invested Knight of the Garter in 1461 by Edward IV. He was also given control of Pembroke Castle in Wales and took over as Earl of Pembroke, replacing Jasper Tudor, who supported the Lancaster cause and fled to exile. William married Anne Devereux and had at least 10 children. In 1469, William remained loyal to the Yorkist, Edward IV, who was battling against his brother, George, Duke of Clarence, and Richard Neville, the Kingmaker, who turned sides and now fought for Lancaster. William and his brother were executed on the 27th of July, 1469, by the Lancastrians after the Battle of Edgecote Moor. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of This Week in Royal History. I hope you enjoyed the little tidbits of history that I shared with you this week. I recently returned from my trip to England and experienced so many wonderful things that I want to go back. If you'd like to do a tour with me in England, send me an email at rebecca@tudorsdynasty.com or reach out to me on social media for more information. I'm Rebecca Larson. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Tudors Dynasty Podcast. You can follow and support the Tudors Dynasty Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon @Tudors Dynasty.